has a special ticket to be admitted in today's connection. Right? Can you guys show that ticket to me? Anybody have? This is like very VIP. I like it. Anybody with a bachelor's credentials, Ms. Myers?
Well, I tell you what, I have the creator of the ticket is here. Jeff, can you get on camera?
Hey there, Jeff.
Oh, yes.
Ah, very nice. I love the creativity. Very nice. Now, also, before we begin, Ms. Myers, are any of the students who created a wonderful Chuck Berry versus Little Richard rap video in the room right now?
Darren Morgan, is he in here? No. Oh, he's hiding.
Hiding. Hey, your teacher shared me your video. Very, very great stuff.
He's not a student. He's my tech coach.
You heard the screaming teenage fans who were so captivated by the way he would perform. But those moves were really controversial. Of course, compared to what we see today, does that still feel controversial? No, of course not. I mean, you can watch even the Grammys and see stuff much more provocative or suggestive or outrageous than that. But, times have changed. Expectations have changed. That's why it's really important when you're viewing history, and rock and roll is history, you have to also think about it in terms of its original context. What were people used to seeing on television back in '56? That's why I showed you that first clip, right? The big xylophone ensemble and the tap dancers in the front row. Those were the kinds of clips that people were used to seeing on television. And rock and roll felt very different, and it was very different. Elvis Presley is not the first rock and roll performer. We think of him as the first because he was so famous, he was so popular, and he was just that. He was very, very famous, very recognizable, very influential. But rock and roll existed several years even. I mean, that clip is 56. I just told you that, Alan Freed, our next time period is going to be the 1960s. Now, the 1960s really becomes a period of change, of turmoil, of confusion, and really of uncertainty. There's a lot of really good change happening, and then there's some change that is not so good. Anybody recognize this person here? I'm sure many of you do. Yeah, very good. That's JFK, John F. Kennedy, our former president. Back in 1961, he was elected president, and as I'm sure we all know, very tragically, in '63, JFK was assassinated. He was shot and killed. And this, sadly, is the first of 4 very tragic assassinations that we have to experience as a country. JFK in '63, civil rights leaders Malcolm X in '65, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in '68, and then JFK's brother Robert Kennedy, also in '68. And you can imagine these were very well respected, looked up to figures, very public figures, political figures, civil rights activists. Very, very tragic thing, and creates this period of confusion for many people. Again, there was some really important change as well. We talked about how rock and roll was born into this era of racial divide. You're on a bus. This sparks the year-long Montgomery bus boycott. But rock and roll is born into this era of racial divide. And even though many of our rock and roll architects have to experience that racism firsthand, Chuck Berry being a very good example of that, rock and roll did a lot to break down those racial barriers. Simply by putting on an integrated concert. That was a very important moment back at that time period. Okay, well, the way today's class is going to work is for every decade that we focus on, I'm going to offer you our rock and roll video jukebox. And based on your preferences, I'm going to give you 2 choices for each decade. Based on your preferences, we will then show that video and talk a little bit about why these moments